Welcome everyone to Dear Self Live on solstice, the longest or the darkest day of the year. It may be the darkest day, but the good news is that it's also the beginning of each day getting more and more light. So we can celebrate that. My name is Cindy Teevens. I'm author of Alchemy, How to Feel Good No Matter What, and The Happiness Lie, What Generations Have Been Told That Makes You Unhappy. So today I'm talking about the power of love and joy, and in particular, a most joyous event that happened in my life to completely and radically alter it and led to an even more life-altering experience. So does it have to do with happiness? Yes, and a lot more. This is the time of year that everybody is seeking happiness. They're seeking happiness, though, in ways that will never give it to them. This is the time of year when people go out and buy gifts to make other people happy or themselves happy. And that's exactly what the happiness lie is, the belief that things, people, or events make us happy or unhappy. It's a complete, absolute lie. It may appear that that's what happens, but it's not actually what happens. If you watch closely enough in your own experience, you can see. For example, say I had this lovely iPhone 6. No, it's not a 6. But say it was, and you really, really wanted it, and you didn't have it. What do? You pine for it, right? You think about it all the time. You think about how you don't have the money to get it, how you wish you had it, and how life is without it, and why you need it. You agitate yourself. You frustrate yourself with thoughts that you believe. So say what happens when you suddenly get it. Maybe someone gives you it or something. Then what happens? Relief. Relief is the first thing that happens. And that feels good. And that gets confused for happiness. The second thing that happens is you tell yourself all these great things. Wow, I'm so lucky. Now I can have whatever I want. Now I can be happy is basically what you're saying to yourself. And so you have a good thought feeling and you feel good. Did the phone give it to you? No. If the phone gave it to you, then you'd have it forever and always as long as you had the phone. And that's not what happens, you know. A day or two, maybe a week if you're lucky after Christmas morning, doesn't the happiness wear off? Maybe we start looking for the next thing. So mind arises, you need this, you need that in order to be happy because of the belief that things, people, or events make us happy or unhappy, that they are the source and cause of our happiness. But before you have a thought that you need something, you're already happy. You're already content. And that gets missed the moment you start wanting something. And it's confusion. You confuse things, people, or events for feeling. But things, people, or events are not feeling. The worst example I've ever seen of this one year when I was driving out around Christmas time, the biggest sign in my life graced the road. Never seen a sign so big. And it said, "Bigger toy, bigger joy." And it belonged to a car dealership. I just shook my head and laughed. You know, there's people out there that are so deeply entrenched in this that they'd believe that sign. So what does that mean for them? That means that they really can't have much joy if they can't get a car. Or their joy is going to be less than others. And so around Christmas time, we quite often have an elevated rise in crime, with people trying to bring home the joy. When the mind-boggling truth is that you need nothing, absolutely nothing, to be happy, joyful, blissful even. Blissful beyond anything you've ever experienced. But because you don't know this, and because you're inundated through marketing and social media and friends and family and generation after generation, we've all been given the message that our happiness lies in things, people, or events. And so it's never questioned. It's never tested. And then when we're denied something, we start to hurt. And we blame the thing, the person, or the event. And we hurt for a very long time because this belief doesn't go away. But somehow, eventually, we stop hurting. And some people like the expression that time heals. But time doesn't heal. You just forget to stop suffering at some point. Some people forget earlier and faster than others. So you can heal instantly from whatever you're hurting over. I know it sounds amazing. Maybe it sounds too good to be true. It certainly blew my mind away because I used to believe the happiness lie. See, I was denied the love I thought I had to have. At least that's how the story goes. It's not actually what happened. I know better now. But back then I didn't know. And I thought love had been ripped away. I thought I'd been deceived. I thought I'd been denied and abandoned and all manner of horrific things. And I experienced all of them because I believed it, not because it was true. And so I went into weeks of the most intense suffering I've ever experienced in my life. And this was after my father's own intense suffering that led to depression and subsequent suicide. I didn't suffer so much over that as I did this. You'd think I'd have learned something. And we say, logically, oh, people can't hurt me. People can't make me happy. A lot of people say this. But when the rubber hits the road, and in how you truly express things in your actual everyday life, you do. You think things, people, or events hurt you. And that includes thoughts in your head. You don't have to have anything outside of you happen in order for you to suffer inside. So-called inside as in beyond the body barrier. You can just suffer over complete nonsense, actually. Things that have never happened, never will happen. Such is the nature of suffering. So how did I learn this? Well, in the middle of that suffering, which was excruciating, there was a lot of wanting going on. I want this, I want this, I want this. And even if it's not an outside person, thing, or event, I want to emphasize, you might be wanting something else. You might be wanting the thoughts to stop. This is also a want. And that can be even more excruciating. So there I was in the middle of this painful wanting. And I came to the end. The thought of suicide arose. But because I'd promised my dad prior that his experience and his suicide would not be for nothing, that was out of the option for me. But I came to zero tolerance for no more pain. So I also came to zero tolerance for blaming anybody or anything. I wanted only love for myself and for them. And something I had recognized, that every time I had and believed a bad feeling thought about somebody, every time I stained or blamed them, I hurt. And they would be nowhere within the vicinity. And I'd be hurting. I'm sure everybody here has had that experience. That the thing or the person or the event that you think is causing your pain, it's not even there. Maybe that's why people who suffer more about thoughts rather than outside things have a little harder time of it, because the thought is there. But if you have the experience of realizing that the thing or the person or the event that you're blaming is not even in your vicinity, it's not even in the room, it kind of exposes the lie and the truth. If you notice, it might mess with the happiness lie, the belief that things, people, or events make us happy or unhappy. And if you've had enough pain and suffering, you might be willing to let go of the belief, no matter how deeply entrenched it is. And that's what happened to me. There I was in the middle of that intense suffering, wanting. But even as I wanted, I knew I didn't have, and I wasn't going to get. And it didn't matter how much I suffered, it wasn't going to change what was right here, right now. And I'd had enough of the pain. So for just a moment, I stopped. I just stopped because I didn't know what else to do. And we're not taught how the body-mind works, how pain and suffering and joy works. We're not taught this. In fact, we're taught, yeah, just blame somebody else and you'll feel a little bit better. We're not directly taught this, but we're taught it in many ways. And I refused to blame. So in that moment, I just stopped. And I heard or knew you can give yourself whatever you want. Huh? And I went back in the suffering. But I hadn't missed this. And I contemplated it a little bit. And I thought, well, if that were true, what do I want? You know? Just going to mute some people here if I can, because we're getting some noise. Dolores, I can't seem to mute you. Would you mute you for me? Thank you, Viv. So in that moment, there was this pause, and then this searching for, geez, wait, what is it? What do I want? And suddenly, I found it. First, I answered the question mentally. Well, I wanted love. I wanted that person's love. I wanted acceptance. I wanted human dignity. I wanted it all. And one by one, I found every one of them right here, just by looking for them. I'll elaborate more on that later. And suddenly, all the energy that was being used to suffer flipped over into the most amazing love, joy, peace. Just as great as anything I'd ever experienced from a thing, a person, or an event. And then it flipped back into the, yeah, but I don't have it, I need it, nah. Back into the suffering. Whoa, what was that? So I looked again for what I wanted. Acceptance, love, joy, peace. And it flipped back again. My experience in the moment flipped back and forth, back and forth. And I discovered that eventually I could hold it, sustain it where I wanted it. And that was very funny, because what I now call old mind would arise and say, you can't be happy because A, B, C, D has happened. And I would burst out laughing because I was happy. So here I was, experiencing this love, joy, bliss, with mind coming in saying, yeah, but you can't be happy. I found it utterly ridiculous and hilarious. It was sort of like when I began becoming a runner. I would, the whole time while getting dressed and getting my shoes on, I would be hearing the voice saying, you're too tired. I don't want to do this. It's too cold out. And I'd be putting on my shoes, and next thing you know, I'd be out, and there I was running. And the mind would still be going on, oh no, but you're going to, all these reasons. Meanwhile, I was running. I'm sure everybody here's had that experience. Maybe parents of children, child crying at night, oh, I'm too tired to get up. Mind will be saying, you're too tired, you need more sleep. Meanwhile, you get up, you go, you take care of the child. How many times have you done what mind said you can't do or shouldn't do? So it was literally mind-blowing to be experiencing this intense love, joy, peace, bliss for no reason. And in spite of what mind had to say about it. So I went around for the next few weeks on a high, basically. Everywhere I went. Didn't matter what I was doing, where I was going. I was experiencing and engaging in love, joy, peace. I was like a kid in a candy store who suddenly discovered that I'm in a candy store and all the candy is free. So I pigged out. It was actually very tiring after a while. Then I realized there's different flavors, and I could also experience calm, peace. But I experimented with this because it was utterly mind-blowing. I became obsessed with it. At first, I got relief from the pain. And that's the first thing that happens when you shift from pain to a better feeling. You get some relief. And that's all I wanted initially. I just wanted the pain to stop. But I discovered the longer I stayed there, the bigger the love and the joy and the bliss grew. And I would stay for 5, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And it would grow, and it would grow, and it would grow. And I found the negative thoughts just fell away. There's no space for them. When you feel good, you're a good thought magnet. And when you feel bad, you're a bad thought magnet. So don't fight with thoughts. The positive thinking is a painful thing. I tried it really hard before I made this discovery. Trying to tell yourself something positive while you're feeling brutal, it just makes it worse. Learn to feel good first. Shift your state first. And the thoughts are effortless. You don't have to do anything about them. They take care of themselves. So when I discovered it was pleasurable, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew, I began to experiment. And one day, I clearly heard the thought when the joy and bliss had grown to this intensity. Well, you can't feel that good. Nothing's happened. Lost all the joy. What was that? So there's a belief that I can only feel so good, and I guess I hit the ceiling. So I went to experiment some more. I went back and rebuilt it again. Now I show people how to do this. And the joy grew and grew and grew. And then it went beyond anything I could possibly imagine. And the only word I can use for that is ecstasy, really. And I began to engage and indulge in these experiences, seeking them. I actually found a word for it, even though there's no it. I fell in love with love itself. And I guess still seeing things as separate, somewhat, I called it the beloved within. And this may be what Rumi used to talk about, or other ecstatic mystics. I hadn't heard of Rumi or the beloved at that time, and then I did later, and I was quite entertained by that. And so I pursued this beloved, quite like a lover, actually, on my mind 24/7. And at one point, it was happening spontaneously. I was no longer pursuing it. It was pursuing me. And I would have episodes where I really didn't want to have episodes, particularly in the grocery store, with friends. And so I began to just go out by myself in the woods as much as possible. And one day in the woods, I went out for an extra long day, an extra long hike. And I had been having what I now call micro explosions of love and joy. They were huge to me then. But compared to what happened next, they're micro explosions. So I had them through the whole walk. And I'd come to the point with this after about 9 months of I had no interest left in the material world. There was nothing I wanted, nothing I didn't want. That doesn't mean I didn't partake. The body got up every day and did its thing. There was no need or desire for anything of the world, no attachment. I call it an equanimity. An equanimity settled in. It was a very, very deep peace. Never went below the equanimity, but then I would have the spikes of love and joy. And on this walk, I combined a number of things as I had been using. Love and joy was already there. Meditative walking. And a certain form of inquiry. I was asking questions. Because the only thing that mattered to me in the world anymore were the existential questions that I had dismissed as a child. How do we get here? Where do we go from here? What's it all about? Is this all there is? But foremost, I wanted to know the truth. It seemed like there's something missing. Didn't know what. And I wanted to know the source, the truth, God, the divine, whatever you want to call it. We hear of this as a rumor more than anything until you have the direct experience. And it was a burning desire. But not a desire like most desires. Most desires are wants, and they make you feel bad. This was so delicious. It was just a magnetic pull. I actually felt, it's the way I described it, was a magnetic pull within. And I just sought as much time alone out in the woods as I could. And this particular day, the pull was very strong. And I was seeking God. And I had heard things like, God is everywhere. Turn over a stone. God is there. So in this meditative walk, I was asking, if God is everywhere, how come it's not obvious? And in the gap came, God is the source of all, comes before everything else, is subtle. And boom, there was an explosion at the chest that knocked me to my knees, crying with an intensity of love that is just beyond this world. Tears streamed down my face as I looked up. And when I looked up, I saw the trees as my very self. For the first time, this body-mind saw the trees as my very self, and I have no way, other than that, of describing that. It's not that I didn't see the form of a tree and leaves. There was a recognition of, that's me. Not I'm that, but that's me. This I. And every tree I looked at, it was all the same. Me, everywhere. And then I went to say, that's me, and I couldn't. No words came out. No thought came. I didn't need thought to know. It was the end of time, self, other, space, separation. And then I burst out laughing. And I fell in the snow, giggling uproariously between crying and giggling and crying and laughing and crying and giggling. Tears streaming down. It was like every cell in my body was being tickled simultaneously. You know, like when you're a child and they tickled you too much, at some point it would start to hurt. This could never hurt. I don't know how much time went by, if there was time to go by. I laughed and cried and noticed the sun was going down. And remembered I'm hosting a party tonight, co-hosting a party. So before then I had the thought I could stay here forever. Oh yeah, you're co-hosting a party. Well, doesn't matter, nothing matters. I could be here, I could be there. It was complete understanding that there's nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing matters. You know, nobody even to speak to at that point because it's all me. This is perhaps why there was no speech. But also who I thought I was gone. And there was this undeniable recognition of my true self. This is who I am. And after some time, thought started to come back. And I could hear it way over there in the faint distance. And it was the strangest experience because I recognized it as who I used to be, or thought who I used to be. But I know so clearly, without doubt, who I am. And that's when speech came back, and I said, well, I know who I am. Who the hell are you? So I started walking back, shaking my head, laughing the whole way at how simple everything is and how there's nothing to do and nowhere to go. And then I got home late, called the friend I was supposed to pick up and said, I'm late. And she was, okay, see you when you're here. We were picking up a third person. Before we got there, I tried to explain. And yeah, it was unspeakable. Finally, the laughter settled down and the third person got in the car and it was quiet and I started to drive and she goes, so what's new? I burst out laughing again. Is it new? No. Is it old? No. Is it timeless? Yes. Can I say anything about it? No. It was the most profound yet the most normal thing ever. And I tried again later that night. Gathered some friends around. Oh, I got to tell you what happened. I got to tell you what happened. And they all sat around me, and I started to tell them, and I looked up, and I went, yeah, no, I can't. It just failed so miserably to try and put words into. And even now it fails. I mean, the laughter I can describe, the joy, the love I can describe. But the direct, what I call the direct seeing, the knowledge, it's not acquired knowledge. It's the falling away of false knowledge. So what can you say about that? There's nothing to learn. There's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. You sound like a crazy, a crazy woman. I get it. All right. It took me years to start talking about this in a way that made any kind of sense, in a way that could be of any kind of use, potentially, to anybody. But I think the biggest use in talking about it is to just let people know there's something else going on here. There really is. And I think everybody has a sense of that like I did before. even though you don't know what, there's something else possible, there's something else true, and you're not who you think you are. It's always a funny sentence to me because I see it on 3 levels now. You're not who you're thinking you are because you're always thinking something about you, and you're none of that. The ego is not what it thinks it is. It thinks it's you. And you are not the ego. So there's like a 3-way confusion going on here. But we have some other Dear Live broadcasts on the ego. So today it's all about love and joy. One of my favorite topics. So I'm just going to open up the lines here and see if anybody has any questions or comments on any of that so far. Feel free to unmute yourself. And I'm going to check to see if we have any questions on the chat board here.
Cindy?
Yes.
It's Dolores.
Hey, Dolores.
Hey, your sound went lower.
I sound lower?
You sound lower.
Lower than what?
Your volume sounded lower. It was louder, now it's lower. But I don't know if it's just me.
Oh, we'll check. Anybody else have noticing sound change?
Sound is good here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, anyway, I can hear you, so. But here's what's going on with me. Well, I don't know. I have a decision to make between 2 jobs. And I've been suffering with this decision. My current employer had placed me on like disciplinary action. And then I started to look for another job, found another job. Then they said, well, when I went and handed in my resignation on Friday, they said, well, they kind of countered. They were going to reorganize my position, and they were going to come and talk to me about it. And the job that I'm going to would be something that I'm kind of a little bit more interested in, but it doesn't have the benefits that my current job has. And the only thing that's keeping me from going to the new job really is the benefits. And I mean, I just stay up in my head about it.
Didn't you say the old job terminated you?
No, they put me on a disciplinary action a few months ago.
Okay, so you're sort of being watched kind of thing, and if you make one more move, yeah, okay. Right. I was being watched, and there was some improvement, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, I was being watched, and so I started to look for another job, and then they came back when I put in my letter of resignation. Oh, we kind of wanted to keep you, and so, but I guess what I'm feeling is that I get events or jobs are what give me my happiness, or ouch.
And I don't know, and the only reason that I don't want to go now to this other job is because the current job has more benefits.
But are you unhappy in the current job?
Not totally unhappy, no.
So I don't understand the problem.
Because I like the other job, but it doesn't have the benefits that this job has.
Okay, so you'd like it a little bit better. Now here's the difference between attachment and preferences. Okay, so preferences, you just prefer one job over the other, and that's normal. I mean, we have so much variety here. We have preferences. We do have choices. Attachment, on the other hand, is if I don't get this or if I don't have that, I'm going to be unhappy, or this is what makes me happy. And most people think I think, as you just said, that a certain job will make them happy. That's a little bit of a different issue. We can deal with that on the side. But basically, if you have this idea, I have to make a decision, okay, that's just a thought that feels bad. You actually never make a decision. Decisions are always made for you. They become known to you. And if you don't yet know the decision, it's because you haven't been told yet. You haven't got enough information yet. And in fact, you have been told the decision because you haven't done anything. You're in the job you're in. That's the decision at this moment. Now, in terms of your happiness, it doesn't really matter where you work. You can learn that happiness is within. It's kind of like an example I use of someone walking in a park and they see children playing and they notice this happiness blossoming. This happened to me. And I looked around and then I saw the kids playing and I went, oh, yeah, that's why I have this sudden happiness. And that was a thought. That was recognized as a thought. And see, thought is always after the fact. Thought is always looking for reasons after the fact to claim things. That's what ego does. It claims responsibility. It claims ownership. It claims doership. And it's just a thought. You find yourself taking action. I've been in a similar situation recently. As the business builds, I had the opportunity to take a part-time job, and everything's set up for this job. I got hooked up. I took the training. I got my bank account hooked up. And one day I went to submit my hours. That's the only thing left, submit my hours. I went to submit the hours, and it's just like, no, it's not happening. It's not happening. And then a little while later, going to go submit my hours, and then I got really sick. And so it didn't happen. And then this has happened so many times where mind came up and said, oh, you're taking that job. And then mind said, you're not taking that job. You're taking that job. You're not taking that job. What does mind matter? Mind is very much like a sports commentator. It's, they're up there talking about the game, and they have absolutely nothing to do with the game. The game goes on. So the idea that I have to make a decision isn't true. What I noticed is the numbers tell me. If there's not enough money this month, guess what? I'm taking the job. And it's happened that there has been enough money, so I haven't done it yet. It hasn't happened. For you, you don't have enough information yet, perhaps, to make any different change. But the decision, therefore, has already been made. You're doing what you're doing. Does that help?
Yes. I just kind of wish my happiness weren't still dependent on outside.
How do you know that to be true?
Because when in my mind, thinking about these two different positions over the past few days, I've just been, and I think about this other position, that the newer position, and I think, oh, if I'm in that position, because it would be working with music and all of that kind of stuff and with groups, that I would think that would make me happier than where I'm at, because
Okay.
I'd be working with music.
Okay. All right. So once again, it's okay to have preferences, but you also have a preference to have benefits, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have some potentially apparent conflicting preferences. However, as you said it clearly yourself, in my mind, okay, this goes on. And how are you feeling when that goes on? Are you happy?
No, very unhappy.
Yeah. So it's not actually got anything to do with the job one way or the other. It's got to do with this torture in the mind, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's all imaginary. You don't know that when you get there, you will be happier. And I'm working with your attachment here, okay? You don't know when you get there that you will be happier. And because you could be unhappy. I've had many people, and even myself, think that if I had this, a long time ago, I'd be happier. To get there to find out, no, you're not happier. See, so this is all created in the mind, the idea you're going to be happier. And as soon as you have a thought in your mind, oh, that will make me happier, you start to feel happier. And you confuse the thought with the reality. Reality hasn't happened. But the thought of being happier makes you feel happier. So you can do that anytime without the job. The moment you put your power of attention on a good feeling thought, you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to learn detachment, if you want to learn that things don't make you happy, give yourself what you want the moment you want it. To do that, you have to ask yourself the question I asked myself. What do I want? And then you answer it. Take up this practice when this goes on in your head, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll be free from thinking a job's going to make you happy or unhappy in any way. And then the decision, so-called decision, will become clear to you. And the thing is, don't forget, if you take this other job, you're not stuck there for life. Right? If it makes you unhappier, because you thought it was going to make you happier and it didn't, there's going to be another job. And maybe if you don't take this job, there's going to be another job. It's the beauty of life, is it's ever changing. Some people don't like that. It's actually a good thing. Come to welcome change. All there is change, really, in this world.
So you said though, to get to where you're at, you had to keep practicing with your mind. Keep practicing letting go of or not paying attention to thoughts.
Well, I would notice the thought. I would notice that it felt bad. And then I would ask myself what I want instead. Okay? There's no such thing as letting go. So people try to do this letting go thing. Letting go. You're either holding on to this or you're holding on to that, right? I mean, unless you're sitting in meditation and attaining a stillness, that you can't really do in your everyday life. There's no letting go. There's only, what are you doing now? This is why people who want to quit a habit, people who are addicted to something, they say, I want to stop. How can I stop? I need to quit. There's no stopping. There's no quitting. The better question is, what will you do instead? Because the substance is being used for a purpose. And if that purpose is not addressed, there will be another substance substituted again and again and again. So everybody wants to be happy. There's nothing wrong with that. It's your natural state. We get confused when we try to seek it in outside things, people, or events. And that's where it all goes wrong. So you can use the desire to be happy like I did. Use your natural capacity for happiness to detach from what you think you need. So whenever you're feeling bad, I say, when a bad thought arises, don't accept it. Suspect it. You're feeling bad not because of the content of the thought. You're feeling bad because your power of attention is on the thought. And shift it. That's what I learned to do accidentally, rather dramatically. It was so violent, so violent to me to be going from this intense suffering to this intense joy that it completely messed with the mind and the belief that things, people, or events can do anything to me. I mean, it took such a hit. It wasn't completely gone, but it took such a hit there was no way it could recover. And then I continued with engaging in the love, joy, and peace and laughing at what I now call old mind, that there's nothing left of it. You'll never hear me say it stresses me or he hurt me or she. It's not what you hear me say, it's what you don't hear me say. It's just not true. And this is so glaringly obvious to me now that I can see it very quickly in other people when they don't see it. And I can point it out and just get them to change their attention, to shift their attention so that they see what they're doing, so that they can have the same opportunity to go, oh, okay. This is where the laughter comes from. Someone who is so intensely believing what they think has to make them hurt, and then suddenly they're not. After I get them to shift, they burst out laughing. It's very funny. Something you thought had to be and was so serious and hurt is suddenly not. It's not true. So this is why I encourage everybody to seek joy. Actively seek a good feeling in the body, no matter what comes up. I don't care what thought comes up, ignore it. Or use it. It's like a child who falls down on the floor. They don't lay on the floor cursing at the floor, blaming the floor. No, they use it and they push off the floor. So use a bad feeling thought and push off of it, turn it around into its opposite. This may sound like positive thinking at first, but it's not. The first question is just to find out what you want. That's to find out what your attachment is. And it has to be a thing, a person, or an event, because that's what you're attached to. Don't try and be bigger than it. Don't say, I just want to be peaceful anyway. No, that's garbage. You need to face this. What is it you're attached to? What do you want instead of that? And it can be anything. You're like a kid at Christmas Day. You don't judge it. Doesn't matter what it is, actually. Now we're getting into alchemy, which is fine. And then once you know what it is, once you hit on it, it'll feel like relief. Oh, God, yeah, that's what I want. And mind might try to say, yeah, but you don't have it. This doesn't matter. This is just another thought. You ignore this one. You say, this is what I want. And then the second question is, how does what you want feel? And notice the last word in there is feel. It's not think. Feel. So you seek for the feeling that you always have available to you. You see, we don't want things, people, or events. We want the feeling we mistake them for. And you can have it anytime. That's a lot of theory. You've actually got to do this to embody it, to really get it. So don't think about what I say. Use the questions. I'm going to open it up again. Anybody have any comments, questions on my experience, love, joy, bliss?
I think Sharon just called me. She had some questions. She's trying to get her microphone to work.
Okay.
Sharon, you keep muting and unmuting your microphone. When it's not red, you can speak.
Is that it, Alex? Can you hear me, Cindy?
I can hear you, Sharon.
Okay, Cindy, I took your class like last year. I bought, and then I ran into a lot of different issues, okay, health issues. And you were writing me back and forth, and I can't call you on my phone. It doesn't go through. So, I mean, I just let it go. So I don't, in other words, I joined, and I was able to get a free class, and you had tried to call me, but it just never happened. We never got together. So anyway, Alex is a friend of mine, and it just worked out perfectly today. I want to know now. I've had experiences where I went to a breath retreat, and a voice outside said, "You're not thinking, you're being thought. You're not breathing." I never heard these concepts before. I opened the course of miracles after, really. I had no idea that somebody, Liz Cronkite, a teacher of the course, asked me what forgiveness meant, and I said nothing ever happened, and I got scared to death. So I am, now when you're talking, I have this incredible stillness, but I don't have what you have. What I want to know from you is, number one, we are being thought, because it's a thought system, right, that's running the show here. Am I right or no?
All right, so that would beg the question, who am I? When you say we are being thought, you would have to first have an understanding, or at least an inquiry of who you think you are. All right?
What I know is that the knowing, when I say, who knows this, I get this incredible opening.
Okay. So, and then the second part of the question is the thinking process. So you're saying, we are being thought. Okay. So there is a thinking process. The brain is constantly churning out thoughts, unless you're, meditating into stillness. The brain, that's its job, and it's brilliant at it. It puts out like 40,000 thoughts a day, apparently. Somebody's measured this. I don't know who. So thoughts are constantly coming up, but you see they're options in terms of you don't have to believe them. They're not options in that you can control them. Meditating, controlling your breath can bring thoughts down, but to try and control your thoughts during the day is nonsense. So you can't control them. However, they're optional in that you don't have to believe them as true, and I hold that no thought is true. No thought can be truth, and we can talk about that too. That would take some, maybe another call. But, and so this thinking process is going on. Is there a you thinking? No.
There's no personal me. There's no personal me. The mind made me, but there was never a personal me.
Who's saying this?
The knowing. But I get scared.
See, I get scared. That's not the knowing, all right? So this is not the knowing that's speaking.
Well, why do I feel so good, though?
Because you're touching on truth.
Okay.
But anybody can parrot truth. Anybody can
I know.
Truth. Yeah. It doesn't mean you know it. Okay? However, sounds like you've had some insights.
Well, like when I say who is the I and I contemplate it, I don't see an I.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Are you waiting for me?
I am. Go ahead.
So I know that the ego is a parrot, so I have to be careful of that. However, I'm a Course in Miracles student, so spirit is the second part of the bridge, and I don't want to pretend I'm somewhere where I'm not yet. Is really what I'm saying, and I still think I'm a body, but I have literally seen a picture become me. So I've had these experiences, and I would like a telephone talk with you or something, so I could, because that was something, I was drawn to you a while back, and it just didn't work out, As far as like, my worrying, I have like an attachment to my children. Now that's mine too, right? The mind is telling a story.
All right, so I just want to address what you said a minute ago. You said ego is a parrot. Ego is not actually a parrot. The brain is a parrot. Okay, the brain receives information and stores it and links one thought to the next, to the next, to the next, just triggering them. Ego is something else. Okay, ego is not an entity that lives within you. Some people think it's this evil, they talk about it as an evil thing that somehow can usurp you, somehow that has more power than you. And that's not the truth. Ego is a case of mistaken identity. Okay? It is you mistaking yourself to be a thought, and what I would suggest is that you and I have a direct one-on-one conversation about that. You can always go to exposetheego.com and read about the program that I have there, which will be actually changing soon. It'll be becoming more involved, and actually the price will be going up. So it's a good time now if you want to get involved with that. And I'm speaking a lot because we're getting a lot of noise feedback, and maybe it's the way that Alex has you feeded through here. I don't know. So as long as I speak, we don't have that, and so I'm sort of trying to do a run on. I think it's helping anyway. And as far as attachment to your children, how do you know you have an attachment to your children?
It's the feelings.
Feelings, what?
Well, you know, there's a worry, there's a concern. I have one son that has been in and out of drug addiction, and then it can really make me crazy, you know, and worry. You know, he got clean, he just went back again, you know. So I don't understand that.
So when you say it can make me crazy, that's a tip-off there for me, because I know that nothing makes you crazy. That thoughts, you know, arise, and if you identify with the I thought in thoughts, that will create suffering in the body-mind. And so that's what needs to be done there with that. Is again returning you back to the exposing the ego program so that you can know exactly what ego is, because once you see what it is, it's over. Okay.
Yeah, I want to see that because I really don't like the suffering. I'd like him to tell you the truth. I mean, I read a lot of people other than the course, and I have your book, The Happiness Lie. And all of it resonates with me. But, you know, being a mother was what I wanted all my life. And, you know, I still am attracted to that. I'm drawn back to that. And I also would think that my son would probably do well because he's addicted to drugs, right? Or so that's what the mind's telling him.
So, you know, some more work will help you realize that who or what you are is not a mother, and that will help with so-called attachment. But you're not attached to your children per se. You're attached to certain things happening or not happening. Okay, and so it's whatever's arising in the moment that you need to work with.
Okay.
Okay. We can sometimes, this is what mine does. It generalizes, and it sort of says, you know, well, this happened and that happened, therefore I'm attached to my children. And now we have this bigger idea problem that I'm attached to my children, whatever that is. Okay. And then you try to deal with that on some level, and you can't. What's the saying? You can't deal with a problem on the same level of thinking that caused it. I think Einstein said that. He's so true. So it's like someone saying, you know, I have to find my purpose in life. Well, before you had this thought, you have to find your purpose. Was there a problem? No. Now you have a thought that says there is such a thing as a purpose. You've lost it, and you've got to find it. And believing this thought, you will agitate yourself, and then go out and try and find the solution to the agitation. But you think that it has something to do with your purpose. But it doesn't. It has to do with this thought believed in that something is wrong. And there's nothing wrong. Okay. So there's a fair bit of work.
When your father committed suicide, I mean, that blew you apart because you had the belief that he was your father.
So with suicide now, the politically correct way to term it is died by suicide. And I apologize if I used the word committed earlier on, because suicide is not illegal anymore. It was crazy to even be illegal. But also it takes away from the importance of suicide in that suicide is a social problem. It's not a one-person problem. It's not even a one-family problem. And it is actually, the happiness lie plays a part in it. So it's a very big problem. And so my father's suicide, I suffered over it, but not very long, because I had been getting coaching and I had been practicing sitting meditation. And I had not been engaging the thoughts as much as I normally would have if it had happened a couple of years earlier. And so I went through about 3 months of grief. and then it was pretty much over. There's no suffering around it, you know. There's no, oh, I should have done this, I shouldn't have done that. There's no guilt. It's completely clean.
Okay. So, a suggestion for me, like, you know, how do I, you know, well, I is the problem. That's the whole problem.
Yeah, but we can use it. So learn to shift your state. That does help. And also continue with what's called self-inquiry. But learn to do it correctly. And there's actually no real correct or wrong way to do it. I found after the direct seeing in the woods, it wasn't quite over. Because as I said, you know, there was this moment of, well, I know who I am, who are you? And that wasn't really very clear until I did self-inquiry a little later, and I realized what the thinking mind is, as opposed to me, as apart from me. And everything fell into its proper place. So I'm a big proponent of doing self-inquiry, and I didn't do it in exactly the way I read later that it was supposed to be done. But whichever way you do it is good, is better, and as long as you do it. So you can come on one of my programs, and back when you and I first connected, this aspect hadn't come out. It only came out recently as a result of work with a client who was suicidal, and became very clear to me then what could be of use, you know. And so I've been offering it to other people, and it can open up for a seeing. You have to be open to see, okay? It's completely up to you.
I got that. Okay. So what we would do now is I would go on exposetheego.com, or would you call me, or?
Yeah, if you still have my email address, pop me an email. You can also go on the website, Alchemy Lovejoy, and there's a form on there to contact me. That way, my phone number's up there too. Check
I don't
out.
know why I can't call you, but it doesn't go through on my phone.
I don't know what the issue is with your phone, but if we're going to work together, that's going to have to be sorted out somehow or other.
Well, no, I mean, Alex is trying to help me with Skype. So
Great.
Yeah, so we'll see. You know, I mean,
Super.
the thing that I see in you is that, at least that's what I feel anyway, is that you are, you know, I get more than self-realized. You know, I don't know. I mean, I read books like from Sailor Bob, John Mueller, and they talk about the fact that we are the awareness, and I feel the awareness.
Yeah.
Is that
Even
how
that.
you see it?
Yeah, even that sentence. See, language is so limited. Language cannot speak it. The minute you say we are something else, you have now subject and object. You have separation.
Okay.
But you know what you said is interesting, because I remember after this happened, and I went and picked up the friend I was picking up, and it was a day or two later. I was still talking about it to her, and because she was the most interested, and she said at one point, "So is that enlightenment?" And I went, "Nah." And she said, "Well, how do you know?" And I went, "Oh." And it was like, "Yeah, no, I don't know, because I don't know anything." And that stuck with me for a very long time, though. And I started to look around to see if there were any other similar experiences, you know, of what had happened. And it's only recently I found one, and that's with Adyashanti, if you know him. So
Yeah, I use him a lot. I listen to his tapes and I do his meditation.
yeah, there's one video of him being interviewed where he describes pretty much what I described. He was in the house when it happened, and he went around looking at everything and seeing it all as him. And he said, you know, what was really funny, he said, "Even the toilet?" So he went over to the toilet and he checked the toilet. He said, "Yep."
I know. You know, I have his book Liberation. You know, I think it's called Liberation or whatever. And he tells a story where he couldn't find himself.
Yeah. Well, yeah. See, this is where it gets unspeakable. In that moment, you may hear people tell you things like, you don't exist. It doesn't mean like, you know, enlightenment is some kind of annihilation, some kind of void. It means who you think you are doesn't exist. And so the thing that struck me, because I had heard these things, you don't exist, and it didn't mesh with my experience, because my experience was, well, I'm more me than I've ever been, you know. And so because this false me had fallen away, and so that's why it, you know, didn't mesh for very long with things I was hearing. Most people say these things. It's parroted conceptual thoughts that really don't serve them. You're better off forgetting about all that and just doing the inquiry. Either doing the inquiry, because apparently there's two ways to go: do the inquiry, or go the route of devotion. Fall in love. Most people use a deity, which is still separation. But it's okay, because in the end it will dissolve the false you. You will just merge. It's not the accurate word either, but and so there will be no more separation even from God or source or divine or Krishna, whatever deity you have. And for me, it didn't start that way. I just fell in love with love itself. And, you know, I look back on that and I say, well, you know, they say God is love. Love is God. Truth is truth. So,
So you never get worried or angry now?
Worried. Angry. Anger, if it arises, it's a strange phenomena. It's very temporary. It's usually, like if I see somebody, you know, beating a dog or something, some adrenaline, I would call it adrenaline, will come up and I'll say, hey, stop that or something, you know, and then it's gone. And I think what we're pointing to here is that with the I who doesn't or does get angry, there's a story line that attaches to these things. So anger might become a story. I'm an angry person. Now you have an I ego, you know, or I'm a worried person or something. Thoughts will come up, you know, if money is low, maybe, will I be able to, you know, pay the rent? But do I engage in that as a stressful, suffering, anxious person? No. No.
Right.
What will come up is, there's not enough money, it looks like, so far. Because, I mean, there is enough until the very moment you have to pay it. You don't know that there's not enough until the very moment you have to pay it, right? So it doesn't even make sense to say there's not enough money, because that's forecasting the future, and I don't know the future. So it's like, well, yeah, got to make more money. Time to, you know, find some more money, and you take action. It's sort of a spontaneous unfolding of just action.
Okay, thank you so much. Now I'll just write you, and then we can deal with that, you know. But
Okay.
really, the whole thing is that the body is just like a communication device, right? It's not who we are. We're not.
Oh, it's so obvious. If you really sit down to contemplate, it's so obvious that the body is not who or what you are. I mean, look at the body as an infant. It was completely different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it has changed, right? So
Yeah.
when you were like 16, the body was completely different, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Were you there
I don't know.
at age 16?
If I look, and it depends.
You,
I really, what resonates with me is it's just I'm seeing just the patterns of pictures. But
were you present at age 16?
there was something present, yes.
Something is the same thing as right now, right?
Right.
Right. So the same thing as right now was present then as is present here now, but the body was completely different.
Yes.
Right. So you can see how the body is not you, and it's continually changing. Even in this moment, it's changing. It's perspiring. There's, you know, hormones. There's all kinds of things going on in the body. The body is a process, really, and you see it change. You don't see the subtle changes, but you see it over time change. You might see it put on weight in a month, right?
Right. It's so tricky, but I definitely am open to whatever, I'm gonna definitely go on here and get in touch with you and see what happens. You know,
Great.
I think there's a fear too that I might have, because but that is the I that has that fear.
Check and see. You got to check and see. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. I sat and because I was reading, I guess it was John Wheeler. Do you know who he is? John Wheeler.
No, not familiar.
He was like Sailor Bob. You ever hear of him? And I don't know how to pronounce his name. Maharaj.
Oh, Nisargadatta Maharaj. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they were all from him. And he does direct pointing. See, I like that. I love the course, but it's a lot of words, and I'm still doing it. But I want direct seeing.
Right on, right on. Then you shall have it.
Okay. All right, thank
The
you.
course, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. The course is a huge program. It's a book like this big. If anybody doesn't know, it's called A Course in Miracles. But there's one line in there that summarizes the whole thing. You don't need to read the course if you read this one line. And I'm not an expert in it, so I don't know what the line is. Maybe if anybody.
Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
Yeah, there's that one. There's another one in there, but yeah, that's great. Thank you.
God is.
Yeah, so the thing is that you can read books and read books and read books. I know someone who's on her third time through A Course in Miracles, including the reading and the workbook. And it's like, you know what? You have enough knowledge. You don't need any more knowledge. You've probably got too much knowledge. What you need to do is throw away the conceptual knowledge and get your own direct experience.
Okay.
Okay, so if you've done the course once, yeah, you've done enough.
Most of my experiences came on their own, but I never had what you had at all. I've just had things that when I said nothing ever happened, I got terror came up.
Well, yeah, but not with that sentence. With the next sentence, right? What comes after that?
I don't know.
Oh, then nothing's real. What's everything? Maybe I'm not real.
Okay.
I can just imagine the thoughts came up after that.
Okay. I don't remember. I was just so scared. All right, I'm gonna mute the room so somebody else can talk to you.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Talk to you later.
You're not on Pal Talk then. I mean, you don't do ACIM anymore, do you?
Not regularly, no. That doesn't mean I won't necessarily. I don't know.
Right. Okay, good.
All right. Anybody else have any questions from our guest? We're a little bit over time, and I don't mind doing that when people are still hanging in and there's still questions. I'll also look to the chat box. If there's anybody there who has a question they want to type in, feel free. Go right ahead. I am watching. Okay, then, nothing heard. So enough for 1 week. And you're welcome to join Dear Self mailing list so you can get notified of the links and get the links sent to access the live broadcast or to watch it live and type in questions via chat. If you prefer that, it's every Sunday, 3 p.m. And I do believe I shall also have one on the 28th for those who are interested, and in the holidays you might have more time to join. I don't have a topic for next week, so if anybody has an idea for a topic, feel free to email me and we'll put one up. Otherwise, I just urge you to seek joy and enjoy the joy no matter what, just because you can. Make this discovery. It will blow your mind like it blew mine. And it's there for you. You don't need to open it up. You don't have to wait till Christmas. It's there right here, right now, all the time. Enjoy the joy. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks, Viv.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thanks, Shannon.
Yep. Thanks, Cindy.
Hey, Stephen. Thanks.
And Barbara.
Barbara! Sitting in the corner. Hey. Thanks for joining again. Night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.